We have reached the subject that is supposed to be the deal breaker, evolution, and I've deliberately saved it for the point in the series where we have the tools to handle it properly. By now, we know the tradition reads the creation account as veiled. We know Maimonides' gates of interpretation are open, and we know how to separate what science demonstrates from what philosophy smuggles in wearing science's coats. That last distinction is going to do most of today's work, so let me sharpen it first. Here is the honest science, that life on Earth has a deep history, that simpler forms preceded complex ones across billions of years, that species are related by common descent, is established past reasonable dispute, confirmed independently by the fossil record, comparative anatomy, geographic distribution, and above all, in our own lifetime, by the genomes, which read like family documents. The whale carries vestigial hip bones. You carry in every cell the same four-letter code as the mushroom and the sparrow. A Jew gains nothing by denying any of this, and the tradition, as we will see, does not ask him to. But notice precisely what the science shows and what it does not. It shows common descent, and it shows mechanisms, variation, selection, drift, capable of remarkable things. What it does not show, because no instrument can measure it, is the metaphysical claim so often stapled onto it, that the process is purposeless, that no intention stands behind or within it. Hear the difference. Evolution occurred is science. Evolution is blind and means nothing is philosophy. And that no more follows from the biology than the discovery of the printing press disproves the existence of authors. Once that distinction is made, something surprising comes into view. Significant Torah voices greeted the idea of a developing, unfolding creation, not with panic, but with recognition. Let me give you the sources. Start before Darwin was born. The Kabbalists had long described creation as Seder Hishtalshelot, literally an order of chained unfolding, stage out of stage. The Talmud in Chagiga 13b speaks of worlds before this one. The Midrash speaks of prior orders of time. And in the 1840s, before the origin of species appeared, Rabbi Yisrael Lipschitz of Tiferet Yisrael looked at the newly excavated fossils, the mammoths and giant saurians, and wrote that the naturalists had uncovered exactly those earlier worlds the sages had described, calling it a vindication of the tradition. Read the plain text of Genesis 1 with this in mind and notice its own vocabulary. Let the earth bring forth vegetation. Let the waters swarm. Let the earth bring forth living creatures. The Torah does not describe God manufacturing each creature like a watchmaker at a bench. It describes God commanding the world to produce, mediated creation, creation through process, in the text's own words. And the central figure of this episode, Rav Avraham Yitzchok HaKohen Kook, the first chief rabbi of the land of Israel in the modern era, a rigorous halachist and a mystic, writing in the early 20th century with Darwin's revolution at full storm. Where others saw a siege engine aimed at the faith, Rav Kook wrote, this is from Orat HaKodesh, that the theory of evolution is, and I quote him, is aligned with the deepest secrets of Kabbalah more than all other philosophies. His reasoning, evolution reveals a universe that ascends, matter climbing towards life, life towards mind, mind towards spirit, and an ascending creation is precisely what the mystics had always described, the divine light returning upward through the very stages of its descent. Evolution, in Rav Kook's reading, is the world doing what the penitent does, rising. And he added a methodological point that harmonizes with everything in this series. The Torah's account concerns the inner meaning of creation and was never dependent on any particular chronicle of its outer mechanics. If the naturalists had found the body in the process developing across ages, the believer's response is a larger canvas for all, not a smaller one. And here is where the Torah's own account of humanity lands with real precision. Genesis 2:7, and the Lord God formed the man, dust from the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living soul. Notice what the verse actually claims. The Torah is the last text on earth to teach man's biological grandeur. It insists on the lowly origin, dust from the ground, body continuous with the earth's common material, everything traceable. The verse assigns to dust, and science has traced the dust magnificently. The Torah's distinctive claim was never about the dust, it was about the breath, Nishmat Chayim, the conferral that made the creature addressable, a being who can be commanded, who can answer, who can be responsible. Onkelos translates the end of the verse, man became a speaking spirit. On that claim, the moment a hominid became a soul, the fossil record and the genome are not opposed, they are silent. The origin of life itself, the first leap from chemistry to self-copying, coded cell, remains unsolved. By the field's own account, the gap between the richest prebiotic soup and the simplest living cell is not a step but a chasm. I do not build God on that gap. Gaps close, and faith should not lease its premises from ignorance. But note what any future explanation must produce: the arrival from chemistry of text, coded information and its reader, the very thing we marveled at in the last episode. And the second finding worth knowing: evolution studied closely is less a boundless lottery than the Victorians assumed. Biologists document convergence, the eye evolving independently dozens of times, the same molecular solutions recurring in unrelated lineages, as though the space of possibilities were grooved, channeled towards certain outcomes. Some distinguished voices in the field have concluded that something like an intelligent seeing creature was always in the cards. Grooves are the signature of a landscape, and landscapes, as the Midrash's traveller observed in front of the palace, invite a question about the architect. There are real tensions remaining: death before Adam, the scope of allegory, and the tradition's thinkers debate them in good faith. A mature Jew can live inside an unfinished argument. We have been doing so since the book of Job. But the supposed knockout blow, that a world which grew cannot have been intended, fails on its own logic. Nobody looks at an oak and concludes the acorn abolished the gardener. The gardener's art is the slow unfolding, and the liturgy already says as much every single morning. Who renews daily, perpetually the work of creation, not who wound the clock once. Renewal, continuous, present tense. Evolution did not dethrone God. It documented in 4 billion years of detail what his renewing looks like from the inside. In the next episode, we turn the instruments around and point them at the observer. The 3-pound universe behind your eyes, the brain, the hard problem of consciousness, and the one fact in nature that is only visible from the inside.